Welcome to the Happy Stack podcast, where we explore the science and strategies behind creating a happier, more fulfilling life. I'm Terri-Ann Richards, and I partner with organizations to address the root causes of burnout, disengagement, and stress, equipping leaders and teams with the tools they need to thrive, both organizationally and personally. Each episode, we dive into practical habits, insights, and strategies to help high performers like you level up from the inside out. Let's get stacking. Today's episode is one you will not want to miss. I am sitting down with the incredible Casey Kang, a 3-time cancer survivor, trauma-informed cancer coach, and true advocate for resilience. Casey's story is nothing short of remarkable. She has faced some of life's toughest challenges head-on and emerged with powerful insights on healing, growth, and finding happiness after trauma. In this episode, Casey shares the real and raw truth about what it takes to rebuild your life when everything feels shattered. From navigating the emotional aftermath of cancer to creating daily habits that support lasting happiness. Casey's journey is both inspiring and practical. You'll learn how to reconnect with yourself through movement, mindfulness, and self-awareness, and how to create a life that feels not just survivable, but truly worth living. So whether you're navigating your own challenges, supporting someone you love, or just looking for strategies to thrive in your daily life, this conversation will leave you feeling hopeful, empowered, and ready to take action. Let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Casey Kang. Welcome to the show, Casey Kang. Thank you so much for being here on the Happy Stack podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So let's sort of dive right in. And what I'd love to, I've looked at your bio, I've looked at your website, I've followed you on the socials. But I'd love to sort of start by hearing about your journey and the parts of that journey that sparked the passions that you obviously have that are showing up today and how that has shaped the work that you're doing on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the cliff notes of my journey because otherwise we'll be here all day. Um, so I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. 4 months into my treatment, I had a stroke and seizures from the chemotherapy drugs that they gave me. I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is a rare children's cancer, and I just happened to be 31 at the time. So not only was I going through treatment, but I was also recovering from a stroke at the same time for most of that year. I say that year because it extends. And I finished this 18-month protocol. I have 7 weeks of remission and I relapse and tried an immunotherapy. It failed. Was supposed to go on a clinical trial. It was shut down. And there were no options for a minute for me to even try. There was a clinical trial at another hospital. It was full. There was an extensive wait list. They said that doesn't even mean you're going to qualify, which I read between the lines meant like that your odds are not good because they wouldn't say that otherwise. I just know the language and verbiage that doctors use now. They wouldn't have said that at that time if they thought there was hope for me to get on it, which means they knew the parameters, right? So they were keeping me alive by giving me more chemo just to keep the cancer at bay, and blood and platelets. And at the time, through divine timing, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Foundational Doctors Conference was just completed, and my doctor came back and said, do you want to try this? It's an immunotherapy. It's not for your cancer, but do you want to try it? It was like 2 pages of research, 114 participants. I was like, the outcomes? Not good. Like, I was like, it really made me stop and go, I'm gonna, like, I knew I was headed towards that direction of dying regardless, but it really was like, do I want to get there quicker?
Yeah.
And after so much debate between the oncologist and with my ex-husband, I was just like, you know what, even if I die, maybe the data will help someone else, right? And that's kind of where I left it. And I said, let's try it. We wrote a letter of compassion to the FDA drug manufacturer just to get access.
Wow.
So after a couple months, got access. I planned a funeral. I said goodbye to everyone, had some really awful conversations that I never thought I'd have ever in my life. Um, and we got approved. I did 4 rounds of that immunotherapy, got into remission, did a stem cell transplant, recovering from that, and they told me it was back again. And we were gonna have to do the whole thing all over again. Immunotherapy, stem cell transplant, and I was like, whoa, gut check. I didn't really want to at the time. I was tired, I was exhausted, I wasn't expecting it, and I didn't have the resources anymore. So I depleted my own. Um, so I just dug deep and I was like, this isn't even for me. I'm like, I don't even care if I live or die. I go, but everyone who's moved mountains, and we're almost on like year 4 now, to get me here, it's for them. And I made my quote unquote deal with the universe and I said, but we're done. I go, you're either going to kill me or let me live because I'm not doing this forever. And they did 4 more rounds of immunotherapy with me, and I got into remission. And my doctors were just like, we're going to wait and see what happens. And I was like, this is a terrible plan, especially like where I've been. I'm like, I don't like this at all. And I was like, for how long? They're like, we haven't decided yet. So for 6 months, I would go back to the oncologist every week, and literally, my doctor, my oncologist, who's now retired, put her hand on my shoulder and goes in her thick Russian accent, baby girl, we're just lucky you're alive. And I'm like, stop saying that, please. So, yeah, as you can imagine, you're just like, please stop saying things like that. Like, I don't know how to respond, number one, and number two, like, can I go live life at some point?
Yeah, like
Right.
can I start back? Because you're
Right.
kind of in a forever pause at that point, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was in a holding pattern, so to speak, of like, we're all waiting for it to come back, which isn't like a very good plan.
Yeah. So so you wait, and now do you wait that full 6 months or like you do?
Yeah, so right around like the 6, 7 month mark, I was like, do you think I can go like try to go live life again? Because like I'm still recovering from everything, which is so hard on the body anyway. So it was fine that I was fine, but I wasn't fine that I was in this holding pattern,
Fair.
uh, because it gave me an opportunity to like rebuild a lot of strength, and I was still getting blood and platelets and dealing with a lot of side effects. And they were like, yeah, go for it. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And they're like, eat right and exercise. I was like, what? That's it? That's all you got for me?
Thanks.
5 years later, this is it. That's all. That's all.
Wow. Wow. So where does that land us? Like, are you in remission? Are you, and how many years ago was that from today?
So that was it started in 2014. I am 6 years in remission.
Wow.
And yeah, I it left me going, okay, I don't know if I could swear, but
Of course you can.
what the fuck? Right? 5 years of like being watched closely,
Yeah.
the support, the medical team, not only that, but like from friends and family. It's like, and now you're just going to tell me to go live life and not help me go do that?
Yeah, like here, like you've been in this holding pattern, not entirely sure if today was the day. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, just start the engine back up. Go be free, little bird.
Yeah.
And but no plan.
No.
No plan. Just their work was done.
Yeah. They killed the cancer, which
They
I get it.
you appreciate, which that part's great, but no plan to kind of restart.
No. So here I am at like 35. My life's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And I was flailing, to be honest. Like I had a nervous breakdown. I'm not gonna lie. I was in therapy for a lot of this time and I still had a nervous breakdown. And I remember calling her that night that I was like legitimately in probably the worst place I've been in in a long time in my life, and she didn't answer the phone and didn't call me back for 2 days when she previously said, "Anytime you need anything, you just call me."
It's the worst thing that anybody can say to anybody because the problem is sometimes you don't answer the phone.
Right?
So she calls you back 2 days later.
By then I was like, I had already, so that night that I called her and she didn't call me back, my ex-husband called my dad and his mom over,
Mhm.
right? Like so embarrassed that they came over. And I'm sobbing in a pillow. And this is after my husband had to break down a bathroom door. So I didn't kill myself because I
Mm.
grabbed a bottle of pills. Like that's how bad I was. Like I fought so hard to be alive and I was like crushed by living.
Can you talk me through that? Because I think that's a really important point to stop and then start on is that you spent sort of this enormous amount of energy to survive cancer, to beat it, to kick it in the ass, to then be given the news that okay, you're good-ish, and go live your life, to then be like, but what life, right? Because the life that you had previously is gone, right? There is a new of who you are, new lessons, new learnings, but all the stresses and the worry that would have probably compounded over those 4 years now just kind of comes to a head, and you're left with your thoughts. And can you kind of bring me to what that, because I think the reality of it is your story, though unique, I think all of us have had somebody in our life that has been touched by something that has taken them down a few notches. And it's hard because, sort of like your doctor saying I'm, what is it? I'm happy, baby girl, I'm just happy you're still alive, or something like that. People don't know what to say. Family
Mhm.
members don't know what to say, which means inevitably you're left with your own thoughts and all the worries and the fears. And a lot of times, what I've heard from peers of mine is you don't always say what's on your mind because everybody around you is already so stressed about losing you and about helping you, that the last thing you're wanting to do is share with them that you don't even really want to potentially live or get up at a bed or da 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 da. So bring me to that moment of what was going through your head.
Yeah, so like people just went back to normal life, which it's not their fault at all. And I was left in my own head, so to speak. And everyone I had met throughout my cancer journey for 4 or 5 years said, "Oh, just wait till you're done. It's gonna be amazing. Don't don't wait. Like just don't worry." And I was like, "Okay." So I get to the end, and my expectations don't match the reality. I'm afraid constantly. I'm living on razor's edge. Like literally, like someone would ask me, my ex-husband would ask me, like, "What do you want for dinner?" I just bite his head off. I thought I was broken because like I wasn't happy. Like,
Mm.
I survived this massive thing and I was like angry. I was frustrated and I was like, what do you mean just go eat right and extra like which just fueled the anger even more and the frustration and the overwhelm with like, okay, but like all my plans that I had, like I'm not going to be able to do any of them. Right? Let alone like sit in a corporate office and listen to a customer complain about something I legitimately don't give a shit about
Mm.
anymore, right? Like,
Well, it also feels so trivial in comparison to some of the things that you would have experienced over those years. So you get to that spot, and I mean, here we are today, and I know that we're in a much different place today. Help me understand how you fall to that spot, locked in a bathroom or a bedroom, pill bottle in hand, potentially considering ending it all after just fighting the battle of your life, to being somebody who is a trauma informed cancer coach today. That's there's a gap there. It's
Yeah.
also a very interesting story that I'm very curious of hearing.
Yeah, so that night, because everything, I thought I was the problem. I thought I was broken. Like I would never be able to like live a normal, quote unquote, normal life again. And I still don't to a certain extent. Um, and that was like the first time in all honesty, in 5 years that I admitted I was not okay. Because every time somebody would ask me, "Are you okay?" Yeah, sure. That was the standard answer, right? Like, you don't want to, I felt like a burden already asking for help for so many things. Like, to say, like, emotionally, I'm not okay, like, just felt like too much, right?
Fair.
And so that night, I came home from work, I dropped my bag on the floor, and I crumbled to the ground and said, "I'm not okay. I can't do this anymore." And my ex-husband was like, "Did something happen at work?" Like, what? Like, he just didn't, he had no clue, which he,
He couldn't connect that this potentially had to do with everything you had just recovered from and survived.
right. And so that night I was just like, "You don't understand." I was so angry and I was so in a bad place. I was yelling at him. He couldn't understand. He was like, "What's going on?" Like, because to just walk in the door and just like start sobbing on the floor in the kitchen, I was like, "You don't get it." I grabbed the bottle of pills that I had because I had a ton of medication, and I ran upstairs and locked myself in the bedroom, or the bathroom in the bedroom. And he obviously came up, and I was like, and he's like yelling through the door, and I'm like sitting there like trying to get the bottle open. Like, literally, when he broke down the door, he had to pry open my hand with pills inside of it. Like, I was in such a deep, dark place because I thought I was the only one experiencing this. Like, no one else that I talked to during or after was like ever talked about how afraid they were or how catastrophic this was to their life. They're like, "It's great." And I'm like, "Are we all lying to each other?" Like, what? So I thought it was me. I was
Mm,
the problem. And I was like, "How do you solve that problem? Not being here."
wow. So thankful that you didn't,
Yes, I'm,
and because you are here.
yes, I am. Spoiler alert. I didn't actually go through with it. Thanks,
So
thanks to
so what
him.
happens? Yeah. So I mean, obviously he knocks the door down, takes the pills out of your hand, but that doesn't change what's in your head. That doesn't change the feelings that you have. So what do you do to get to a place where you are today?
Yeah, so that night I was crying in front of my dad. My dad kept going, like, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." I'm like, "It's not okay." I'm like yelling at him. I'm like, "It's not okay. It's not going to be okay." And that moment that I was yelling back at him, I had this epiphany. I was like, "You know what? No one's gonna help you. No one's gonna do it for you. You gotta put your big girl pants on and figure it the fuck out, or you're gonna."
Mm, mm,
So that next day I got up and everyone was like, "Don't go to work. Don't do this." Like, I got up and went to work, and I don't think I worked an ounce that day. But I put together a very messy, ugly, imperfect plan on how to get myself to a better place because I was like, what I'm doing is not working. It's not enough. I'm in therapy. It's still not enough. I'm like, I need like massive um intervention here. So I intervened myself.
good on you.
And I just kept like everything that I put together on this very jankety list at the time. I just kept going down. I'm like, "That didn't work. Try this, and it led me to it was leaving me breadcrumbs enough where I would just follow it. And it was all intuition. It was all like, okay, well, if it's the fear and the anxiety, like, let's figure out why. Let's figure out all these things. And I was taking things from other things to apply them. Like, a lot of some of the thing, not a lot, but some of the things that I do I took from like military PTSD and trauma. Like, okay, there are wars, yes, outside of them, but like very similar. So I was like, okay, so like let's see what they're doing. And like things like you wouldn't think of traditionally.
Where does that come from? Because that's not something that I would say every person would just naturally. You then started to both advocate, but do this research and go down this path? Like, is this something that was normal for you pre-cancer?
No, I came from corporate America. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew like re getting my strength and energy back, although great, wasn't going to solve the problem here and
Mm,
here in my heart. And so I it was literally like intuition to guide me. And I started to was like, okay, the only time I feel good is when I do yoga. Well, why is that? And I kept like getting really curious about the things that were making me feel good and understanding like why is there a correlation between me turning off my brain for an hour, moving, and all of these things, right? Like it didn't make sense and it wasn't linear like I'm explaining it. Um, but it just kept getting curious about like why is that? And then that led me to this and that led me to that. And then like I just kept going. And like when I was in therapy and I went back to her the next week and was like, hey, this is what happened. Because my ex-husband was like, you need to tell her. And I was like, I don't want to say anything. I don't know why I was ashamed of it. But I think I was more embarrassed and because I was so strong during treatment and then to like get done and fall to my knees, basically almost broken. I just didn't understand that even of
it
myself.
was a disconnect to
Right.
who you know yourself to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even some of the questions were leading me to answers, and that curiosity of like, why did she ask that even led me to like more and more of these small epiphanies along the way and small connections. And I was like, okay, because literally like she was helpful in talking to her for an hour, but she literally wasn't giving me really anything to do outside of that, which I'm not saying anything's wrong with therapy. I think everyone should be in therapy, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Can you share some of those tactics, actions, habits that you started to create for yourself that helped to really make the shift?
Yeah, so I really dove into yoga and understanding the body mind connection of why is it that my nervous system is calmer after I do it, even during. And, lo and behold, a 30-year study came out probably 3 years after I started to practice and become a yoga instructor that yoga is more effective than therapy or medication when it comes to PTSD and trauma. And I was like, oh, I was like,
Really?
so my gut was guiding me in these things that now was science was validating. I was like, okay, so obviously I'm onto something. Um, and little things like that, like now are coming out that I was doing back then, like meditation, all of these things that I'm like, yeah, I was doing that just like my intuition was telling me to do it. And now to be validated, it's like, that's amazing.
Wow.
So like yoga, meditation, breath work, having really strong foundational journaling of like questions that like help me figure out things where I just was like, oh, that really gained some perspective. Like earmark that for whatever reason, because it came from one book that was like so obscure and you're like, it doesn't make sense.
So you do breath work, meditation, yoga, and somewhere along the line, you come to a place of peace, happiness. Like what would you say that emotion was when you felt like you were good again?
It was like a calm washed over me. I was like, oh, this life is going to be different, but we're going to rebuild a better life. And like, so it was like a sense of calm and ease because the hope was back that the life that I was going to build for myself was going to be better than maybe anything that I had already experienced.
Wow. I think this is profound because I think there's obviously going to be people listening to this or watching this that can resonate because they too have been through a similar journey or are potentially in a journey right now. But then there are others who, thankfully are not, but maybe have had other traumas in their life. And I think what I'm hearing from you is, through all of your research and sort of curating the content to figure out like what is it that I need to do in and above therapy, uh, it was kind of going back to a center, right? And and it's so interesting because I have these conversations on a regular basis, and it kind of sounds like all the woo. It's all the woo that helped you, like going to yoga, doing meditation, doing breath work. This is the stuff where most modern day individuals would think, well, that's that stuff over there. But
Mhm.
that's the stuff that actually helped to support you to get to a place where you felt, as you said, calm, good again, right?
Yeah, like I can handle life. Like whatever's to come is going to, whether I want it or not. But I'm in a place where if it happens, like I'm good.
Mm.
I am so good. And like it's a place I never thought possible. Like if you would have said I'd be where I'm at today, then I would have been like, "What? What drugs are you on? That's not possible." But it is, and I get it when you're in that dark hole, like you don't see the light. You just don't.
Mm. What advice would you give to somebody who's potentially in a similar spot or maybe supporting somebody who's in a similar position and that darkness is sort of corralling around them? What advice would you give them?
To honestly seek out support in some way. Reach out, even if it's just admitting to yourself that you're not okay, which sometimes that when I was in that dark spot, even admitting that I was not okay, like out loud saying the word, terrified me.
Hmm.
Terrified me. So me breaking down that day when I finally was like, I'm not okay, was just there was so much guilt and shame wrapped around it because I was like, I'm already a burden, and now here I am breaking down again. Like, who am I to ask for more support? Who am I to like when you've already taken so much, right? Like that's the weird, strange thing about like surviving or being in that dark place is like you think it's your fault, and then you blame yourself, and then you're like, well, I can't ask for more.
Mm.
I don't deserve that. I've already taken so much, right? It's like you're so psychologically not there.
Wow. And that's actually that's a scary thought to think that, individuals who potentially are surrounded by, people who would go to bat for them and, love them unconditionally. But regardless of what you have around you, when in that spot, you feel like a burden. You maybe feel like you've already asked for too much and asking for that extra thing, or being maybe just that much more honest would potentially harm or hurt them. It sounds to me that there almost has to be like a courage within that, like all that is true and still say it
Yeah,
because you'll be better afterwards.
right? And it's like you don't feel safe admitting that you're not okay. So your sense of safety is even disconnected from reality, and I'm like, everyone's gonna think I'm crazy for saying this, right? Like there's so much like white noise that's going on in your head. When if I would have even just like months before that been like, I don't think I'm okay,
Yeah.
it would have been, I might not have broken down that night. I can't guarantee that because obviously
Yeah.
we don't know, but so I say just even admitting to yourself out loud, like, I don't think I'm okay. I think I need more help. I think I
Mhm.
need support. I think I need something maybe outside the traditional of just therapy. I think I need more, right? And then like that's the best self-care you can give yourself is just like saying it, saying like I need more.
I've read that you emphasize that happiness requires active participation. Talk
Mhm.
to me more about that and what that means to you.
So like everyone's like, I want happiness, right? Well, you can go on a vacation and get happiness, sure. That's, what people do, right? But that only lasts for like what, a couple weeks maybe when you come back. And then reality hits of like all these things. It's actively participating in it every day. It's a choice. It's a
Mm.
choice to wake up and look at this world as like an opportunity to have the best damn day ever. Or oh, it's just Monday. Fuck Monday, right? Like it's
Mm.
fucking Monday. Like,
Yes.
and I think that's why I mean like active participation towards it, right? We get to choose how we get to it doesn't mean the day is going to be great when I say, "Oh my God, today is a great day for a great day," but it gives me a better opportunity to have one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sure that day could be a dumpster fire, but
So when you're working with, I mean, I obviously in your work you're doing work as a trauma informed cancer coach, but I mean, I think a lot of what you speak to and what you teach, you preach, um, has the ability to sort of land on a multitude of ears because of its usefulness. Um, you said that self-awareness sort of plays a role in terms of how you work through or recover from trauma,
Mhm.
challenging moments, big experiences, sort of on that pathway to living a more happy and fulfilled life. Talk to me about self-awareness and sort of how you're defining it and that process for people to get to it.
Right. I think self-awareness is a lot of different things. I think it's understanding number one where your headspace is at. And although we'd like to become this thing immediately, we have to meet ourselves where we're at. So it's the awareness of number one, what's going on, and number two, where we're at in that journey, right? Because obviously the transformation is a process and everyone wants to get to the end of the process, but we can't just start in the middle if you're not there. We have to meet you where you're at, bring you up to that. So that's number one. Number two is like understanding, being self-aware of what's going on in your body. Because of trauma, any trauma, big T, little t trauma, is going to disconnect you from that, right? Our brain and our body they're one thing. They're not two separate components, although we treat them as such.
Mm.
And so the self-awareness of like what's happening in your body and then on top of that, what is your body telling your mind that your mind's not even listening to,
And would you
right?
suggest somebody do that daily, weekly? Like what would that kind of check-in look like for someone?
I personally do it every single day. Every single day we wake up, we're not going to be the same person we were yesterday.
Mm,
Tomorrow, we're not going to be the same person we were today.
so
Otherwise,
true.
we're just going to carry what we had yesterday into today, into tomorrow, and into, Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday all over again.
Mm. So if you were to sort of make a desire for the audience to walk away with something today that is an actionable movement habit that they can create, not starting Monday, starting today, what would that what would that be? What would your encouragement be? What would you want to land with them after our conversation today?
Um, Start before you're ready, number one, and you can start with as little as just walking without headphones on and listening to your thoughts.
Say that again.
Start before you're ready, and it can be as simple as walking, listening to your own thoughts without headphones, without TV noise, without anything.
Mm,
Movement, and here's why I say walking or some sort of movement. There are studies and research done that when you move your body, there are parts of your brain that actually start to let their guard down, for lack of a better word. There's a scientific name for it, but it's not necessary. So you're more honest and truthful with yourself.
Ooh. I hope that landed with everybody who's watching or listening to this, that when you get out and you move, that by nature, something that we don't know what it's called, the scientific term, but you have the ability to become more self-aware and go inwards and do that introspection that maybe allows you to answer the questions of maybe what's bothering you and come up with the answers of what's the next right step for you.
Right. Like a really large example of that is they stopped interviewing Lance Armstrong before he worked out. They found out he was more truthful and honest after he exercised.
Wow. Interesting. What's the one thing that you do on a day-to-day basis to help stack your happiness?
I would say journaling and exercise. I would, those are non-negotiables for me. I mean, I do other things as well, but like exercise for me is therapy. And to get to that point, I wake up and I journal. Well, I need to know what I'm trying to exercise out, right? So it's understanding like what are the thoughts that are even there? What's going
Okay.
on? Yeah.
I love that. You have to be like the fifth guest I've had that speaks to exercise being like their number one go-to and their therapy. I hope that's coming out loud and strong for everybody. Um, what's the one piece of advice that either you would give someone who's, taking their first step, or maybe a piece of advice that somebody has given you along the way that's really like it's a golden nugget.
Ooh. I think the best advice, and this is like really generalized, and I mean, but you hear it all over and over again. Start before you're ready, because you're never going to be ready. You just won't. You just won't. You'll leave it till tomorrow and the next day and the next day. That's the best advice I got, and it's so true. And number two is that have a plan, uh, a- a- and not just have a plan, but have an implementation strategy. And if you don't have one, seek out somebody who's been through it that can help you with that, because there are so many things on my journey that I've done with a coach myself that I'm like, oh my God, this is so much easier.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think sometimes because we get stuck in our head and all those thoughts start to take over when we're in a ick or a funk or in a dark spot, it's nice to have somebody on the other side that sort of understands the trajectory of where we're going so they can kind of pull us out, but also, see things from the gray zone that potentially you can't see, right?
100%. Mhm.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, I want to ask you some lightning round questions, some things about you that I think the audience might be interested in. So, morning or night person?
Morning.
All right. Do you have a favorite book?
Oh, it's hard to choose one. Oh my gosh. So uh, my favorite nonfiction book is She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb. I read it when I was in high school, and I finished the book and I didn't realize it was written by a man.
Really?
Yes, it's from a woman, it's written in a woman's perspective, and I got done with it and it was mind blowing. And I set it down and I was like, it's written by a man? Like I was blown away.
Awesome. Okay, do you have another book you want to throw out as well?
I would say after that is probably, I mean, The Body Keeps the Score is just like a classic to understand. Like,
Totally agree.
there's so much more to health than like just diet and exercise.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, that one speaks a lot to how trauma sort of stores itself in our body. That is a good book. That's a good one. I've
Yeah.
read that one. What's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like spending time with myself or with friends, and it's a way for me to switch gears.
I like that. And if you could only keep one habit for the rest of your life, what would that habit be?
Exercise, movement. Like after going through a stroke and having to having no movement, I I don't want to ever be back there.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, your wisdom. I hope you have an amazing year and cheers to your continued health.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate being here and you having me with you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Happy Stack podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little extra happiness in their life. Let's keep stacking those wins together. See you next time.